Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only, Mexi here once again, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Mario Party Jamboree, for not only for Nintendo Switch 1, but also with Nintendo Switch 2 version, as you can see on screen, that we still ended up in Jamboree TV portion of this entire package. So, last time, we did somehow manage able to check out the third role set in terms of Mario Party mode, and that's what appears to be tag team roles. And oh no, once again we did ourselves a pure domination victory, thanks to my teammate Princess Peach sometimes, and ultimately though about the fact that this is now our 9th victory in terms of Mario Party mode on this entire Let's Play so far. So yeah, I suppose no matter what though, everything else checks out there. So today, for this video is about the fact that we are about to be going into Mario Party mode for the final time, and because of that, we're about to be checking out the 4th and probably the final rules set, and that's what appears to be Frenzy Rules. So, Frenzy Rules, as far as I'm aware, is going to be a lot quicker in comparison to not only Party Rules, but in addition to Pro Rules and Tag Team Rules mode. So, yeah, now let's go ahead and check out Frenzy Rules, where basically though, as soon as we're able to dive into Frenzy Rules, obviously though, we instantly going into home stretch, basically. So this means we'll start the game off as in last 5 turns, basically. So this means all blue spaces and red spaces will be doubled up straight off the bat, and in addition to dual minigames will trigger more often from the start if you do land on the same spaces as each other. But in addition to that, we can also able to start things off with not only 50 coins, but in addition to 1 singular star and the double dice set, which is pretty interesting. And in addition to that, there's also going to be some other events, which is self-explanatory, like adding some more Bowser spaces, in addition to more chance time spaces, and more coins will be even doubled, and of course, not 1, but 2 stars will appear in the actual board from the start. So, now in terms of the actual results on the poll voting right there, gosh darn it. I know for a fact if you couldn't tell already, unfortunately though, we're about to be going into my least favorite board in this particular rules. So that's what it appears to be, Goomba Lagoon, which I'm not terribly surprised about, but it knows what it is when it comes to the voting results has officially been ended. So because of that though, beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. So because of that though, so of course the actual setup remains the same as the forms of how it does it on you know, the regular party rules mode, but only this time for the fact that we can no longer try to able to increase our amount of turns, and it's also reassuring about this too, is about the fact that unlike pro rules, that we can't able to actually choose whatever item we want to start things off, because obviously though we're about to be just getting the double dice straight off the bat. So either way, of course the same rules applies here, and of course in addition to that, much like the tag team rules, there's now in addition to the mouse controls as well, if we do come across into the final minigame, that is, in terms of the mouse minigame types, but either way, these are the roles we're about to set for. So because of that, and keep that in mind though, much like party roles and pro roles especially, that we still able to actually come across into ourselves the showdown minigames. So, but this time around though, it's only going to be happening just one time at the forms that Frenzy Rules. So with that being said, let's get back into Goomba Lagoon, and hopefully for the final time, so just in case once we're done with every aspect in terms of Mario Party mode, we can instantly able to actually realize that we can now finally jumping into some interesting modes to check out, like, you know, Carnival Coaster, as well as the forms of Bowser Live. And if we do missing some of these mini games that we have not seen yet, then obviously though that'll be a possibility that we can able to actually show off some missing mini games on free play mode within Switch 1 and Switch 2 combined. Because like I said before, depending on what mode you want to check out in free play mode, obviously though it's about the fact that certain mini games have been altered slightly. So because of that though, yeah, you can get the idea what I was expecting. So anyway, so yeah, a few things I want to talk about this is though, and that's what appears to be for the fact that, well, today's date of course there is the 15th of September today, in some cases in 2025 today, so logically though, it's about the fact that we've almost there at the halfway point in terms of September already, before we dive into the 10th month in 2025, that's what appears to be October, which, gee, October's getting close by, wasn't it? Especially considering about the fact that, well, fundamentally speaking, it was about the fact that once we've done every single aspects, in terms of, Super Mario Party Jamboree, that I promise you guys, we will get around on doing the third entry of the specific, well, then again, though, we'll explain more about that at some points for the likes of when October approaches or something. So because of that, let's the game commence with the Frenzy Rolls set. And, that's pretty much about it, basically. So as you can see on screen, I'm now going to be playing a Shy Guy this time around because I just feel like it, especially considering about the fact that obviously those Shy Guy is pretty nice to become playable again after not only Mario Party 4, but in addition to Mario Party 9 and of course Super Mario Party. So because of that, that's why I've decided able to play a Shy Guy for this particular rules in specifically. So, and right off the bat, I'm actually going to be getting an item minigame. That's actually pretty swell. Although I'm really hoping we can able to get ourselves a good item run here. Especially I might as well go after either a mushroom or a triple dice set. Well, it doesn't really matter though, because as you can see, my timing is a little bit imprecise. So instead, I'm actually going to be getting a steel trap. So that's fine, I suppose. So, but anyway, there's a bunch of news I would like to discuss about something. That's what appears to be for the fact that, for those of you unaware, for the fact that recently though, that Nintendo Direct has already came up since 3 days ago, and my goodness, I will say it is good for the most part, but I wouldn't say it's the best either. Well, it sort of feels a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to some people out there, but I will say there are some good highlights for sure, and also there are some controversial opinions out there in regards to the forms of several announcements they did bring from the latest Nintendo Directs. Because for instance though, in addition to able to actually bring ourselves some general stuff here and there, but also in combination with the forms of Super Mario Bros. 40th anniversary, which already did happen since, a couple of days back. So because of that though, which I'm afraid to tell you, we're probably not going to discuss upon it straight away though, because first of all, I'd like to give my honorable mentions in regards to the forms of today's topic, and that's what appears to be not only one, not two, but three grand total of anniversaries, or specifically though, based off from the 90s cartoon series, has officially become, let's just say one of them from the likes of being 35 years old, and then the other two are 30. So because of that though, for instance though, happy 35th anniversary of Tiny Toon Adventures, which as a result, yeah, happy 35th anniversary of this really dang good cartoon series back in the 1990s, so, or should I say early 1990s, that's for sure, especially because considering about the fact that a lot of people keep on talking about it, especially because of all that, well, familiar female character, which is of course Fifi La Fume, which, truth be told though, because I generally think that's the cutest character I've ever seen, in terms of the Warner Brothers history, next to the forms of Lola Bunny to me though, from the Looney Tunes cartoons, but that's just me though, because even then though, I'm still basically supporting not only Looney Tunes, but even nowadays with Tiny Toon Adventures, well, not so much the forms of any other spin-off territories, like for instance though, there's the forms of Luna, or Looney, I don't know what you call it exactly, just because, well, it has been quite some time since I actually mentioned something like this, and I still really don't care about the forms of the preschool series, but the forms of baby Looney Tunes to me though, but because I'm not exactly a huge demographic, but I'm more into the forms of, slapstick humor comedy kind of sitcom, when it comes to not only the Looney Tunes, but in addition to, Tiny Toon Adventures, basically, but that's how I feel about it anyway, so yeah, kudos to the 35th anniversary of the Tiny Toon Adventures cartoon series, so that's pretty top notch. And then meanwhile, when it comes to the other two projects during that time, which appears to be Pinky and the Brain and Freakazoid, both managed able to celebrate the 30th anniversary since 1995, so pretty incredible, I have to say, especially it's also been made by the one and only Steven Spielberg, which even though that's actually pretty swell, especially because those shows in particular was also been beloved as of lately. So because of that, and meanwhile, there's also another TV series which appears to be taking place in live action, and that's what appears to be none other than The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air has recently celebrated its 35th anniversary recently, since also in 1990. So yeah, that's actually pretty swell. In fact, between Tiny Toon Adventures and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air did manage to able to came out in the exact same year as each other within 1990, which is very impressive for the time. So anyway, and then meanwhile, when it comes to the forms of gaming side of things, when it comes to Sonic Racing Cross Worlds first of all, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds network test has been ranked up to 1 million downloads and 10 million races. So yeah, that's actually quite cool, especially considering about the fact that we've only just got about 10 more days to go until the game actually decides to release. And then meanwhile, when it comes to Pac-Man Worlds 2 Repack, we've only got about approximately 11 days to go until that game is going to be releasing on multiple platforms. So because of that though, so yeah, as a result for that matter though, is about the fact I'm still going to be excited to able to actually finally get a chance to play not only Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, because it's getting very, very close, and then also say applies with Pac-Man Worlds 2 Repack as well. So because of that, there's a lot to be looking forward to, especially noticeable because I still usually decide able to support not only Sonic the Hedgehog, but nowadays with Pac-Man, thanks to the existence of, you know, Pac-Man Worlds 2 Repack. So, but anyway though, and also if you couldn't tell already, that Spike is actually going to be purchasing a familiar item, which is the golden pipe. So no matter what though, getting these golden pipes is actually going to get a lot more easy to obtain in the earliest point of this particular rule set, because generally speaking I was about the fact that we still on the home stretch basically, so because of that though, yeah, it's virtually identical to the forms of the regular party rules mode, but only now it's much shorter, meaning about the fact that it will, I'm sure it might be possible about the fact that we can end off the entire rules for approximately 30 or so minutes, or depending on the forms of the Jamboree Showdown minigames will trigger once in a while. So yeah, you can get the idea for this point. So anywho though, another thing I want to point out, and that's what appears to be the Bad Guys 2 film, has recently got confirmed not only DVD release date, but also the Blu-ray release as well. And that's what appears to be going to be releasing until the 27th of October. So, and I'm sure enough that there's going to be a 2-film double movie pack somewhere. So I suppose no matter what though, that'll be a perfect opportunity for me to finally get a chance to able to actually, you know, not only got the first Bad Guys movie, but in addition to, for the first time ever, I'm actually going to be seeing the Bad Guys 2 once that film comes out on DVD specifically, or Blu-ray, depending on if you're able to actually prefer the quality or anything else like that. So, because I'm not gonna lie though, I do really enjoy the first film, especially because of how unique the art style is to me. Although that was before when Puss in Boots: The Last Wish did somehow came out before that. So, because generally the Bad Guys did first came out in 2022. So, yeah, relatively speaking, I might, oh, wait a minute. Wait a second. Are you kidding me? She just got very lucky with that hidden block containing a star after losing half of her coins from my trap. Jeez Louise, man. Anyway, so yeah, I was not expecting that, but either way, I bet this is going to be a close game, I would imagine, which, truth be told though, because generally speaking though, sometimes though, you know, hidden blocks can be, something, I suppose, which that's the reason why in Pro Rolls mode they somehow axed out the hidden block system. So either way, let's get back into Hammer at Home, and fundamentally speaking, oh yeah, just like Domination, if you couldn't tell, there's no new record on here. So because of that though, yeah, it's a bit of an unfortunate side of things though, because you know, like I said before, the new record system is only there on the Switch 1 version, whilst compared to the Switch 2 edition, that it does not contain new records. So, yeah, it's kind of a shame, you know. But anyway, the next thing I want to point out is that recently though, Donkey Kong Bonanza has recently got a new version patch update, and that's what appears to be version 2.0.0, and I think that's the reason for that is because there's actually something new just came up, thanks to the forms of the most recent Nintendo Direct, which again, that'll be a topic for later. So, for now on though, let's go ahead and move on to turn number 3, for the sake of the forms of that particular, well, frenzy rolls. So, and of course, we still have to utilize the forms of the tide system as be expected, so nothing new or ordinary or anything else like that. But at the very least though, Wario decides to join in as a Jamboree buddy, so I suppose this will be the absolute final time to able to actually stumble across into ourselves the Showdown minigame, because let's face it though, I don't mind the actual inclusion, but it's just that, you know, it can be feels like a marathon sometimes, depending on what mini games you're able to actually going into. To be more specifically, though, depending on what specific characters they'll show up. So, but anyway, so let's get into the main elephant in the room in regards to the forms of this particular discussion, and that's, of course, the Nintendo Direct discussion time. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, for the fact that no matter what, though, like I said before, I was very excited, but also I was a little bit disappointed at the same time. But let's run down the list to see what specific announcements they somehow received from that particular most recent Nintendo Direct. The first thing they did start things off is, of course, celebrating Mario's 40th anniversary, specifically the Super Mario Bros. 40th anniversary celebration. So, for instance, though, they've shown ourselves some very interesting content when it comes to the forms of, you know, for celebrating Mario's 40th anniversary. The first thing they did somehow point out, and that's what it appears to be for the fact that they've shown ourselves some interesting stuff for as a recap. Like, for instance, though, with the forms of Super Nintendo World, is going to be, well, I'm sure enough, though, is about the fact that the Super Nintendo World has already been opened up recently from the likes of the Epic Universe in Orlando, in Florida. So because of that, though, just for the sake of the recap, for the sake of time, and there's also mentioning about the forms of some sort of a marathon event or something like that, which is pretty interesting. And then meanwhile, there's also the forms of a, well, conveniently enough, though, this is the first thing I was very excited for after this particular honorable mentions thing, and that, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to be receiving a brand new Mario movie, which now officially gets its title, and the second Mario movie is going to be called the Super Mario Galaxy movie. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious me, I'm actually very excited about this, especially because since I'm a huge fan of not only Super Mario Galaxy, but in addition to Super Mario Galaxy 2 as well, so I was very hyped about the forms of trying to able to actually go ahead and see the Super Mario Galaxy movie until specifically the 3rd of April in 2026. So because of that, that'll be a day one for me when it comes to seeing the film on the big screen. So because of that, though, I cannot wait to see, you know, Rosalina in a film, and in addition to that, yes, there's going to be some even more Lumos is going to be in the film as well, because I'm almost assuming to myself, is this going to be something related to likely for Super Mario World movie? But at first glance anyway, because they somehow managed able to tease something at first, with the first few seconds of the actual teaser trailer or something like that, they did show us the forms of not only Monty Mall in the actual movie style, which does look very accurate by the way, but in addition to that though, I would say the Overworld OST rendition did somehow plays out for a little bit, but then, in about a few seconds later, it somehow, the camera just somehow managed able to go right into the skies above, or should I say, into space. So that pretty much signifies for the fact that we're about to be getting a Mario space-themed movie, which is, you know, the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which, either way, and I'm sure enough though, in addition to able to actually bring in the Super Mario Galaxy movie coming out in 2026, the voice casts are pretty much exactly the same as the first movie. Like, we still about to be seeing, or we're going to be still able to actually hear not only Chris Pratt as Mario, as we expected, and in addition to that, Jack Black is going to be back as Bowser, so that's pretty exciting to see. And in addition to that though, there's also Charlie Day, who's going to be once again voicing Luigi, and of course, Anya Talia-Joy, I think is what her name is though. I apologize for that mispronunciation of her name, by the way, but either way, she's once again going to be voicing Princess Peach, just like the first one, and I would say King Michael Key, if I can recall correctly, that he's once again going to be voicing Toad, also ever since in the first film. And also, Kamek is going to be back once again, but there's one or two absence when it comes to the voice casting departments this time around, and that's what appears to be both not only Donkey Kong, but in addition to Cranky Kong as well. My guess is about the fact that maybe there's a possibility that there's going to be a spin-off movie that actually has a huge focus on Donkey Kong and stuff like that. Again, I do apologize for that particular tongue twist in the end, folks, because even then, though, I do apologize for that. But anyway, because yeah, they were expected able to try to do a Donkey Kong movie out of it at some point in the near future, but we shall wait and see what happens for the sake of the forms of the later years to come. So anyway, yeah, very excited about the forms of this new Super Mario Galaxy movie is going to be on its way. And it's once again going to be made by not only Universal Pictures, but also Illumination as well. So as a result, though, this is going to be the second Mario movie. It's going to be animated, so no wonder why the first film was a huge success. So a lot better than the film's that terrible 1993 live-action adaptation. Because that film stinks like a bomb. Get it? Because, you know, that film bombed at the box office. So you get the idea for that point. So... and after that, though, there's something really surprises me, and that, not only for the fact that not only does Super Mario Galaxy returns on Switch 1 again, after the events of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, strangely enough, but also, finally, after so many years later, well, technically since like 5 years or something like that, after Super Mario 3D All-Stars, well, Super Mario Galaxy 2 has finally returned. But this time on Nintendo Switch. And I'm like, I'm very happy right now. And usually, relatively speaking, though, I can finally get a chance to play Super Mario Galaxy 2 on the go this time around, though. So as a result, though, it makes me extremely happy. And as a result, though, because, you know, I'm still a huge fan of those two games in particular, because I love the orchestra music, and also I love the vibes when it comes to space themes and all that stuff. But usually, this is what makes things a little bit controversial for most players out there. You see, back in 2020, we've already technically got Super Mario Galaxy on Switch already, all thanks to the forms of, let's just say, Super Mario 3D All-Stars compilation. So if you remember that, well, think of it like that. So I'm pretty sure enough, though, it might play out exactly the same as the 3D All-Stars version of that particular 2025 edition of Super Mario Galaxy on Switch, but there are some slight differences, or actually, kind of think about it, there might be some noticeable differences compared to the 3D All-Stars compilation version of Super Mario Galaxy. First of all, they're going to be added in some little amount of content, which unlike 3D All-Stars does not have. Well, aside from the fact that you can now play the game within not only button controls, but now with the forms of motion controls thanks to, you know, Joy-Con controllers, and even play the game on handheld mode. And second of all, is about the fact I'm pretty sure now that the game is now going to be on 4K resolution, assuming of course that'll be on Switch 2 specifically, so that's always going to be something. So yeah, we'll talk more about that later. So because of that though, yeah, I'm so happy that we can finally get a chance to get Super Mario Galaxy 2 on Switch 1, which I know for a fact that I've almost first thought that Donkey Kong Country Returns will technically be the final Mario game to be released on Switch 1, but that's not the case, because it seems that both Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2 combined into one are definitely technically the final games to be released on Switch 1 when it comes to Mario games alike. So because of that though, still, it's very bizarre about the fact that Nintendo is still supporting Switch 1, despite the fact that Switch 2 has already came out. So yeah, it's very bizarre indeed. So anyway, and also I know for a fact that a lot of players complain about the forms of the price tag, which it seems a little bit too scummy, which I know for a fact that it's going to be cost about $70 if you try to buy both of these games at once as a double bundle pack. At least, much like the forms of, let's say, both Pikmin 1 plus 2, basically though, much like that particular compilation since 2023, are you able to actually get yourselves, let's just say, not only you can able to buy these games separately in the Nintendo eShop application, or if you want to go really double dip on it, then you can obviously go after the physical version as well. Which for me personally though, I don't mind getting a physical copy of the game, although it might seems a bit redundant for me to able to replay the exact same Super Mario Galaxy 1 game again. But I've noticed something about the fact that the UI, user interface specifically, has actually been updated. Which, remember back in Super Mario 3D All-Stars version of Super Mario Galaxy, that it just somehow basically reused the exact same UI as the forms of how it does in the original Wii version, but now the actual control schemes has been replaced into Nintendo Switch controllers. So, usually for Joy-Con icons attempt to show up, and in addition to that though, when it comes to like, you know, the Manta Ray Racing segments, that it now shows us not only the singular Joy-Con controller, but in addition to a handheld system with Nintendo Switch. So, Yeah, I suppose that'll be about it. So, when it comes to the UI, when it comes to the 2025 edition of Super Mario Galaxy 1 for Switch, the actual UI has been updated into a familiar font based off from Super Mario 3D Land. So, yeah, that's actually pretty interesting to say the least, to make things a little bit more accurately like a modern re-release, as opposed to the forms of the emulation and stuff like that. So, yeah, you can get the idea about that. So, this could be also applies with Super Mario Galaxy 2 as well, on Switch 1 for the first time ever that it's finally got re-released. So, yeah, I suppose no matter what though, it's about the fact that to me though, getting the Wii U versions of Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 digitally seems a bit redundant now, at least to me anyway. Plus, it's mainly because the quality is nowhere near as granted, compared to the forms of nowadays with Switch 1 specifically, and even with the forms of Nintendo Switch 2, because apparently though, in addition to being able to actually bringing back not only Super Mario Galaxy 1 again for Nintendo Switch 1 for the second time, but also for the first time ever with Super Mario Galaxy 2, but even then, in addition to able to running those games on 1080p and as well as 720p on Switch 1, but if you ever played those two games in particular on Switch 2, the resolution were about to get increased within 1080p on handheld mode and even 4K resolution on docked mode. So yeah, that's actually pretty cool and everything. In fact, it does remind me of like a similar situation as the forms of to me though, as in Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 remix to me. I mean, I get the feeling for the fact that something tells me, I don't know if it's going to be a possibility, we might able to actually finally get a chance to see Super Mario Galaxy 3 as a brand new 3D Mario game, but we shall wait and see what happens during at some point in 2026, because aside from all that stuff though, some fans are pretty mixed on it, especially noticeable about the fact that the price tag on this particular compilation is pretty ridiculous, which as a result is going to be cost about $70 for a Switch 1 title, and I was like, are you kidding me? Although I highly doubt it for the sake of the forms of the UK version though, because, well, still, fortunately though, if you already have Super Mario Galaxy on Switch 1, thanks to Super Mario 3D All-Stars compilation, that you can able to actually buy Super Mario Galaxy 2 sold separately, digitally, so that's always that. So, and the release date for this particular duo compilation is going to be releasing not too far away from here, which as a result is going to be releasing until the 2nd of October in 2025, once again on Thursday. So because of that though, yeah, I'm very optimistic able to actually checking out the Super Mario Galaxy 2 on Switch 1, so because of that though, so that way I can able to actually be very excited able to replay that game again, but this time on the Switch system. So that means I can finally play that game on the go. So even though I think suffice to say, we've now got whopping, let's just say, 7 3D Mario games on Switch 1, or technically Switch 2 if you want to count that as well. So because of that, that's very top notch, despite the fact that we still haven't heard about anything in terms of the forms of the brand new 3D Mario game exclusively to Switch 2. Because let's face it though, we've already got Donkey Kong Bonanza recently, so because of that though, I suppose that'll be a topic for a later time. So either way, I'm very, happy about the forms of both Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2 are now finally on Switch 1, well, usually the second game specifically. So anyway, and then before that, they actually added in some additional content with it too, within the forms of that re-release of Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2, which I suppose that'll be a topic for another time. So because of that though, yeah, by the end of that particular trailer though, they actually shown us not one, but 2 new amiibos are definitely going to be coming. But here's the catch though, the game itself is going to be releasing this year, but as far as amiibos are concerned, we have to wait until specifically in next year in 2026. Specifically, the 2nd of April on Thursday 2026. So, probably a day before the actual Super Mario Galaxy movie is on its way. Oh, about that by the way, you do realize about the fact that we've already done our 3rd reaction video for our channel so far, but unfortunately though, about the fact that 2 segments in particular for that particular Nintendo Direct reaction, as you probably would expect, 2 of those segments has been cut out, probably because of, as we expected, copyright has claimed. So because of that though, unfortunately though, we don't seem to be able to have our excitement reaction when it comes to the Super Mario Galaxy movie, assuming of course because the Universal Pictures is actually going to be involved in this. So because of that, at the very least I did somehow mention about this earlier, but it's just about the fact it's such a shame that you can't see my reaction to that. So I do apologize for this point folks, especially because sometimes movie adaptations can be pretty restricted when it comes to copyright claims, so, but I digress. So, yeah, apart from those aside things though, is about the fact that this is also applies with the forms of one of those segments in particular, which involves around Dragon Quest, specifically Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, which again, that'll be a topic for a later time, because I'm still in the actual process when it comes to discussing upon, you know, not only the Super Mario Bros. 40th Anniversary Direct segment that I was going to be on about, but in addition to that though, with the forms of other miscellaneous stuff I'd like to point things out. Before you dive into the forms of any other content when it comes to Super Mario Party Jamboree, because, you know, we're getting very, very close towards the end of our Let's Play of Super Mario Party Jamboree, basically, before you're able to actually move along to the forms of the next couple of Let's Plays to come. So, yeah, stay tuned for those. So, anyway, the next thing I want to point things out, and that's what appears to be for the fact that, out of nowhere too, for the fact that no matter what though, there's also going to be a special Rosalina storybook that's going to be existence on my Nintendo store. And I was like, okay, that seems pretty cool. In fact, it does remind me like a similar situation as in Sonic X Shadow Generations, where if you do manage to able to pre-order that game, back in last year in 2024, that you're able to actually get yourselves a physical Gerald Robotnik's journal. So it feels like kind of like the same thing as in Rosalina's storybook physical thing, but here's the catch though, it's not going to be releasing until specifically in November in this year. I would say specifically it's like the 25th of November if possible. I mean, it would be nice if I would like to able to have that book, but either way though, we shall wait and see what happens. So, now I suppose there's also another thing I want to point things out in regards to the forms of both Super Mario Galaxy 2025 edition on Switch 1, as well as Super Mario Galaxy 2 for Switch 1. It is now possible you can now able to actually check out new chapters when it comes to Rosalina's storybook, which is actually quite interesting to say the least, but either way though, I would have liked able to actually discuss upon more details about this though, but as you can definitely tell, the Frenzy Rolls has ended. So because of that, although we've already experienced one of those showdown minigames, which is of course Wario's Buzzer Beater, thanks to the forms of Ninja, which as a result that he somehow got a 10, so yeah, there's nothing else I can really say about the forms of Frenzy Rolls basically. Although, keep that in mind though, much like the forms of how it does it on Pro Rolls, there's only one bonus star we need to wager, but just like the forms of any other rolls for that matter, it's all randomized, so excluding with the forms of Pro Rolls because they only choose one of the 3 bonus stars in particular at the start of the game, like, you know, Sightseer bonus or Slowpoke bonus, and heck, even with the forms of the Eventful bonus. So, with that being said, there's my 10th victory in Mario Party mode in Super Mario Party Jamboree. And let's face it though, I'm just simply gonna have to take a break on the entire Mario Party mode now, because at that point in time, we are now going to be moving on into the small amount of extra content for the Switch 2 Jamboree TV portion, so yeah, you get the idea for this point. So yeah, it is quite literally the shortest game we've somehow experienced in a Mario Party game. So because of that though, again, only one board only, so with that being said, I think that pretty much does it for the pulse system of this entire structure of this Let's Play itself, and on top of that, that pretty much does it for a traditional classic gameplay formula when it comes to, you know, Mario Party mode. So all in all, still had a lot of fun when it comes to Mario Party mode as a game itself basically, either on Switch 1 or Switch 2. So either way, it's time to move on to some new content that does have Switch 2's capabilities. So with that being said folks, is that we should probably end things off this point right here. So join me tomorrow for more of Let's Play of Super Mario Party Jamboree plus Jamboree TV, is that we're about to be checking out the next new mode, which appears to be Carnival Coaster, so this will be interesting. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later fellas.